Tonight, a hellish merry-go-round. How a grieving mother describes her experience of the police complaints process after she questioned the handling of her son's death.
Sorry, we can't go and look for these today. For 2 days. I said, oh, please, it's a lovely day. And they went, look, there's football things happening and we need all the police officers to go to this place.
Also making the headlines, the Royal Bank is going to close a fifth of its branches. More than 100 jobs will go as it pulls out of some Scottish high streets for good.
The Health Secretary apologises after figures reveal nearly 35,000 calls to NHS 24 were abandoned last month alone.
As Dubai floods, we hear from Scots caught in the storm amid record rainfall in the Arab Emirates.
And I'm here at a sunny Dens Park where the pitch is ready as Dundee prepare to host Rangers at the third time of asking.
I'm Kellyanne Woodland in Edinburgh.
And I'm John Mackay in Glasgow. This is the STV News at 6. Good evening. The first known victim of murderer and serial rapist Ian Packer has called for the body that investigates police complaints to be scrapped and replaced by an independent and transparent system. Magdalene Robertson told MSPs her plea to reopen a complaint about failings in her case has been repeatedly ignored and her next step may be civil action.
Her call for reforms has been backed by a grieving mother who described what she endured as a hellish merry-go-round after complaining about the handling of her son's death. Here's our chief reporter, Sharon Frew.
Victims of Ian Packer waited almost a quarter of a century for justice. He was jailed for 36 years in February after being found guilty of the murder of Emma Caldwell and of a catalogue of sexual violence. One of the women raped by Packer when she was 15 has complained about delays in the investigation. Magdalene Robertson first went to police in 2006. Following Packer's conviction, Police Scotland apologised for its failings. Magdalene told MSPs she then asked for her official complaint about officers to be reviewed.
I went back on the 6th of March. It was ignored. I went back on the 8th of March. It was ignored. We're nearly hitting, 7 weeks after that. And guess what? They've still ignored it. So we need somebody to make sure that PIRC does their job. Where do I go? I've got nowhere to go.
Ms Robertson told the committee she may now consider civil action. She is adamant the Police Investigations and Review Commissioner, or PIRC, must be replaced.
So I'd say scrap and set up again, and not with the minds of those who caused the issues and the problems in the first place. You cannot set up a new set or create a new way forward, working with those minds that created the issues in the first place.
The Criminal Justice Committee is looking at a bill which will include plans to overhaul the police complaints process.
It's absolutely designed to break you.
Stephanie Bonner described her experience as a hellish merry-go-round. Her son Rhys was found dead on the 8th of August 2019. The investigation was closed 4 days later. The mother from Barlanark says she was a victim of postcode policing.
Just awful. My wee boy's out there, 19, and I'll tell you what, one day they came and says, sorry, we can't go and look for these today. For 2 days, I said, oh, please, it's a lovely day. And they went, look, there's football things happening and we need all the police officers to go to this place.
Do you think your experience was bad because the police could not face up to the fact that they had mishandled the initial investigation?
That's what 1,000%, that's what I think, yes.
PIRC upheld 4 of the Bonner family's complaints. The watchdog said this evening in relation to Ms Robertson, it issued a report in June 2021 which found Police Scotland did not handle either of her complaints to a reasonable standard. It says recommendations were made which have since been implemented by the force. Sharon Frew, STV News.
STV News can reveal that the Royal Bank of Scotland is to close another 18 branches. That's around a fifth of its presence on our high streets. It leaves an uncertain future for workers, with around 100 posts under threat. Employees have been told of the plans. Well, the bank says it's a response to the industry-wide shift towards digital services, but it will leave some towns without a bank. Well, our senior reporter Gordon Cree has been following this story. So Gordon, what more do you know?
Well, Kellyanne, there's been no public announcement about this as yet, but details of the closures have been uploaded to a section of the bank's website, including information sheets for each branch. This is the one for Edinburgh Bruntsfield here. It says it's closing in September. Now, it's one of 18 to go, including in the capital, Leith, Nicholson Street and Newbridge. It also plans to shut Cardonald and Charing Cross in Glasgow, as well as sites in Rutherglen, Helensburgh, East Kilbride, Wishaw, Cumbernauld, Largs and Bathgate. Of course, RBS is still a third owned by the UK government after being bailed out following the financial crash of 2008. And since then, a large number of branches have closed.
There are big implications for communities, many of which are rural, and RBS customers rely on their local branches in order to conduct their financial transactions and their financial business. So not every customer has digital access, and it's certainly, I think, fair to say that over recent years, the branch networks for RBS have been systematically run down.
And that's something we've seen across many different banks as more of us do our banking online by phone or on apps. RBS said today 97% of new accounts are now opened online and that 80% of active accounts use digital services. It says it's investing millions in refreshing its branch network and is committed to no further review until 2026, although that's just a couple of years away. In all, 105 staff are affected. They're being offered voluntary redundancy or redeployment. Kellyanne.
All right, Gordon, thanks very much for bringing us up to date.
Figures obtained by STV News have revealed nearly 35,000 calls for advice to NHS 24 were abandoned just last month alone. The Health Secretary has apologised to people who've had to wait longer than expected.
The NHS's 111 phone service should be the first port of call for anyone looking for health advice and keep people away from the busy A&E departments. Oliver Wright has the story.
Kim dialled 111 2 weeks ago when she had pains in her back and chest. She's had a heart attack before, but faced with the prospect of a 2-hour wait to speak to someone, she gave up and called 999.
Because I'd had a heart attack before and I knew that the feeling was totally different compared to what I'd went through, so I just thought I'd phone for advice, see what they say and then just take it from there. Got the message, the automated message to say that there would be a 2-hour wait and just put me on hold until someone could answer my call.
And at that point, did you just decide to...?
Yeah, just because the pain was getting worse, I decided, no, I'll phone 999 and see what they say. They'd obviously asked me some questions and then they told me that the ambulance would be within 30 minutes.
When you call NHS 24, the first thing you go through is a menu of options to try and direct people to the right place. And each month, well over 100,000 people go through that system. But STV News has seen figures that suggest that each month, tens of thousands of people hang up before they ever reach an operator. Last month, almost 156,000 people dialled 111 in Scotland. NHS 24 says some people will have hung up because they were encouraged to get assistance elsewhere and that the service wasn't the most appropriate for them at that time. But nearly 35,000 abandoned their call before ever getting to speak to someone, waiting an average of 14 minutes before doing so. That's the highest number in the last 6 months, and it's almost doubled since November.
Obviously, I apologise to anyone that's had to wait longer than they would want to get through to NHS 24. Obviously, there is an increasing demand upon its services. As part of previous winter reviews, we've looked at ensuring that there is a callback service available for people so that when they come to the front of the queue, they're able to get a call back to make sure that they're able to get access to those services as quickly as possible. The NHS 24 has been doing an incredible job at ensuring that they're triaging people to the most appropriate forms of care.
Scotland's NHS is facing challenging times as the service deals with long waiting lists and increasing demand from an ageing population. The Scottish Government says it's investing record levels in the health service despite a decreasing block grant from the UK Government. In the meantime, more and more patients are having their health put on hold. Oliver Wright, STV News.
A woman who endured violence and emotional abuse at the hands of her ex-partner says at times it felt like she was living through a war zone. And Danielle Lynn says the prosecution process left her feeling traumatised all over again.
It comes as a review found in 80% of 60 domestic abuse cases prosecuted across Scotland, the overall quality of communication was unsatisfactory. The Crown Office has accepted the report's recommendations and said it profoundly regrets that it has not always got its dealing with victims right. Vanessa Kennedy reports.
Danielle says the physical and emotional abuse she endured during a previous relationship left her questioning her own thoughts. She says taking the case to court left her feeling traumatised all over again.
When it does come around and you are to give evidence and you're being cross-examined, it's traumatic because not only are you reliving those memories and thoughts, but you're actually being, cross-examined and questioned by a defence solicitor as if it were not true. What you were saying was not true.
Danielle says the only support she received was through a charity rather than the justice system. Now, an in-depth report by the Inspectorate of Prosecution in Scotland found that what Danielle experienced is not uncommon and that in domestic abuse cases there were a series of failures within the system. Out of 60 cases that were assessed, the communication with 80% of victims was deemed unsatisfactory.
The report said that within the Crown Office, an attitude of hope for the best was common and said prosecutors were worried they were providing poor service for survivors. It also found the current model for preparing domestic abuse cases involved the cases passing from multiple prosecutors, leading to what's been described as a lack of ownership.
Victim communication was really an area of improvement. Victims need the right information at the right time, and they often need reassurance about the justice process and information about what's going to happen next. And some victims did receive that information, but sometimes it wasn't timely, or sometimes some victims just didn't receive it at all. So there's a real need to make improvements in victim communication.
Campaigners for women's safety say there has to be a complete reform in the system.
It is about being treated with respect and being communicated to regularly. Every single process that we have, we need to look at and say, is this trauma informed? And the answer to that 99 times out of 100 is going to be no. And then we have to take seriously the idea not of just changing it in a little way in a few places, but across the entire system.
The Crown Office says it accepts the recommendations made by the Inspectorate of Prosecution, which says it will monitor any changes made over the months and years to come. Vanessa Kennedy, STV News, Edinburgh.
Emirates Airlines has cancelled all flights from Dubai in the midst of an historic weather event, leaving Scots stranded. The United Arab Emirates is attempting to dry out after experiencing the heaviest rain ever recorded there. Well, Caitlin Hutchison is at Glasgow Airport. Caitlin, has any flights managed out yet?
Well, John, it's a positively gorgeous evening here at Glasgow Airport tonight, and crucially a dry one. Of course, it's been a very different state of affairs over in Dubai recently. Now, we have just watched the huge Airbus A380 touchdown behind us. It's Emirates' largest aircraft, and it's been about 5 hours late. It's been a very anxious time for all the passengers on board because originally this morning all flights out of Dubai International Airport were cancelled after the city experienced around a year's worth of rainfall in just one single day. Now, that caused extreme flooding and, frankly, biblical scenes. And of course, it's not just holidaymakers that are impacted, but we've been speaking to some Scottish expats as well, and they've told us just how distressing this torrential rain and flooding has been.
My fiance proceeded to go into the office this morning, which is up beside Dubai Airport. She only got maybe about 1 mile, less than a mile from home, and the car was underwater on one of the main highways here in Dubai. Thankfully, I've got a 4x4 vehicle, so jumped in and went to rescue her.
I mean, the big thing for us has been the roads, the flooding on the roads. The amount of rainfall that we experienced really was unprecedented. I think the most in one single day in 75 years, they were saying. And I think 5 times more than we experienced in London in a month.
And Caitlin, what has the airport in Dubai said?
Well, Dubai International Airport has apologised for the inconvenience. Of course, they don't control the weather, and they say they've been working as hard and as fast as possible to get things back to normal. The fact of the matter is Dubai is not used to this level of rainfall, and the drainage infrastructure to deal with such weather events are simply not there.
Caitlin at Glasgow Airport, thank you.
Well, on to other stories now, and the price of drink will rise in Scotland after MSPs voted to approve an increase in the minimum alcohol price. It's rising from 50 pence per unit to 65 pence from the end of September. The Scottish Government says the policy saves lives and that health issues caused by alcohol remain a concern.
MSPs have rejected a Scottish Conservative attempt to repeal the Hate Crime Act. They argued it limits freedom of speech and branded it a Clype's Charter. But Scottish Government ministers say it protects people from abuse, and they're promising new legislation to protect women. A major film and TV studio campus has been opened on an old Ministry of Defence site near Stirling city centre, promising to bring thousands of jobs to the area. The former Defence base has more than 100,000 square feet of production space, making it one of the biggest media hubs in Scotland. The local council say it will be a game changer and put Stirling on the map. Brandon Cook has been to see it.
Within walking distance of Stirling city centre lies the site of a former Ministry of Defence depot. It's huge, 36 acres of land, of which the council used a £5 million grant from the UK government to acquire. The original plan was to completely demolish it and start again, but plans change.
When we came along and had a look at the buildings for the first time in June of last year, I remembered a previous career where I was Director of Creative Industries for Scottish Development International, and I spent a lot of time in London looking at Pinewood, Warner Brothers, the specifications needed for a film studio, and this reminded me exactly of Pinewood and what I saw there, and I double-checked that with some fantastic colleagues in Screen Scotland who came and helped us out think a little bit more fully about what this could be.
A visit from industry leading directors and producers confirmed the council's suspicion, and today it officially opened as Stirling Studios, amongst the biggest TV and film campuses in Scotland. Its large warehouses perfect for indoor filming, its outdoor space ideal for set designing and other production work.
This former Ministry of Defence site boasts over 100,000 square feet of production and studio space. Film experts believe it could be the perfect spot to produce Scotland's next blockbuster.
The growth in the international market for content is all in the high-end TV space, if you like. So the content that you see on a streaming platform, be that Amazon, Netflix, Apple and so on, the proportions of this building, plus its proximity to crew and to external locations, make it absolutely ideal for that sort of production. And that's where we've seen the growth in Scotland overall.
Nearly 30 years ago, Braveheart premiered in Stirling, a tale about Scotland filmed almost entirely in Ireland. Now experts say this studio will bolster opportunities here. The council insists thousands of jobs will be created.
You grow the economy through the ancillary businesses that are important to film production, like joinery, electricians, light rigging, costume making and so on. And that's the big dream, so that young people in Stirling on their own doorstep can understand they can have a career in this industry that they probably thought they could never have, or they would have to travel somewhere else.
Brandon Cook, STV News, Stirling.
All right, time for all your sport now with Jamie.
Thanks, Kellyanne. Good evening. Philippe Clement believes Dundee will play with nothing to lose tonight as Rangers finally get their match at Dens Park played. It's a game with huge ramifications for the title race after Clement's side lost in Dingwall on Sunday. Stephanie Daly's there for us ahead of kick-off.
Yes, Dundee's game against Rangers here at Dens Park goes ahead tonight at the third time of asking. Well, after two controversial postponements, the pitch is looking much better and was declared playable yesterday. Well, of course, these two teams go into this game against the back of a very different backdrop than if they'd played last Wednesday. Dundee have now secured their top six status after their draw with Aberdeen at the weekend. Meanwhile, Rangers, well, they're determined to get their title charge back on track after it hit the buffers at the weekend in Dingwall when they went 3-2 down to Ross County.
They have a free ride, that they will feel it like that also. Nothing to lose, they will go full to win this game. It's a different situation than if we would have played 1 week ago, where the pressure was on. So it's a different situation, but yeah. That's Dundee's situation. My situation is that I'm focused on my team, what they need to do.
Well, the defeat to Ross County has put Celtic in the driving seat in the title race, and it's led many to question whether Rangers have the mental toughness to go on and win the title. Well, one former player who's worked with Clement at Ibrox believes that they definitely do.
Those questions are always going to be asked until you obviously get that success that you want, and it's a little bit early to be saying about fragility and everything, because it's very easy to throw those accusations at the players and the club. The last result was a disappointing one. The last couple of weeks could have been better in terms of some of the more recent results, but we're still very much in a good position.
Well, there's certainly lots to play for both sides here at Dens Park tonight, and what a brilliant night for football. You might even need the sprinklers on here at Dens Park tonight. Well, kick-off here is at 8 o'clock.
Well, Celtic hold a 4-point lead in the Premiership at the moment, and former defender Charlie Mulgrew insists Rangers' weekend defeat will have given the champions a huge shot in the arm. Brendan Rodgers' men are back in the driving seat for the title after Sunday's result. Mulgrew says he's no doubt the Celtic players were keeping up to date with the score in Dingwall.
It's brilliant. I remember being there myself, and you're looking at results, and I can just imagine the players looking when Ross County were 2-1 up and just keep looking at their phone, scared to refresh their app. So it's a great buzz. I mean, you don't want to be relying on other teams, of course, but if a favour happens, then it's a great feeling.
Aaron Hickey's making good progress with his injury and is determined to be fit for Euro 2024. That's according to former Scotland defender Stephen Presley. The right-back hasn't played since October with a hamstring injury. Presley, who is head of player development at Hickey's club Brentford, says the 21-year-old is desperate to make it to Germany.
He's making good progression. Whether it's too quick or not, but he's certainly going to give it a real go. And I really hope, with recent news on Patterson as well, I think it would be a big plus for Scotland, because he's an outstanding player. He really is a player, and he's a player that I think can go on to the next levels. I think he can play at the top.
Finally, it's not every day Scotland reach a World Championship final, but that's exactly what the country's cerebral palsy football team is preparing for tomorrow. The 14-strong squad will take on Northern Ireland for the trophy over in Spain. But as Fraser Nichol's been finding out, it's about more than just lifting a cup.
It's goals like this that have led Scotland's cerebral palsy football team to the brink of history. Having progressed from their group in style, just one game stands between them and the World Championship.
Did we think we had a chance? Probably not. All we were looking for from this trip was just an improvement on our performances at the Euros last year. And I think we safely say we've exceeded that.
The players have their eyes on the title, but it's a proud moment too. Matthew has had cerebral palsy since he was born. Tomorrow he'll captain his country in a world final.
I think
growing up as a young boy, my goal was always to say I can represent my country, and I've ticked that box already. And probably the final box to tick is to lift a major tournament trophy, and just hoping that we can win it.
So how does CP football work? The games are 7-a-side and 60 minutes long. As well as players with cerebral palsy, those with stroke or acquired brain injuries can also take part. Getting a CP Scotland team to a World Championship final has been years in the making, and they want to take the chance to raise the profile of the para-sport.
I'm really proud of what we've achieved. And just to kind of echo what the manager's been saying to the players throughout the tournament, this is just the beginning. It's something special for the team. Not a lot of people are aware of what we do. So please get in touch if you want to be part of a CP football programme. And you know, the world is your oyster.
Whatever the result tomorrow, there's confidence in this camp that cerebral palsy football is on the up. But they know they can make history here in Salou and bring the trophy back to Scotland. Fraser Nicholl, STV News.
And all the very best to the lads in the final tomorrow. That's all your sport for this evening.
Jamie, thank you. To the weather now. Here's Sean.
Light winds rolling in from the west. We'll be joined by some very welcomed ice creams. TUI sponsors STV Weather.
A very good evening to you. We've seen a few showers around, but for many of us, plenty of dry, sunny weather to end the day, so a delightful end to things. It does, though, mean it's another cold and clear night to come, especially the lights of South Lanarkshire towards the borders, Dumfries and Galway. A touch of frost here, a little bit more cloud, Argyll and Bute later on, and some showery outbreaks of rain. And we're in for a very different day tomorrow. Not great. Lots of cloud, plenty of rain. We'll see that rain running its way in from the northwest through the morning. Probably a dry start South Lanarkshire, South and East Ayrshire as well, but that rain coming in through the morning, and it really just sticks about for much of the afternoon for many of us, turning a wee bit more showery around the likes of Kincardine, Stirling and also West Lothian. But for many western parts, it is persistent through the day. Temperatures about 10 degrees Celsius. Much better weather though returning Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We've got high pressure ridging in from the west. A lot of dry and bright weather, and progressively it will be turning a wee bit warmer as we go through the weekend as well. So on Friday, a fine day, plenty of sunny spells. Temperatures not overly high, 10 or 11 degrees Celsius, but you'll have noticed recently the strength of the sun just offsets that air temperature. It doesn't need to be overly warm, the air temperature at least. That sunshine is strong, so it does feel quite nice. But the temperatures will be rising Saturday, and by the time we get to Sunday, I expect parts of Ayrshire, around Glasgow and inland parts of Argyll, highs of 15 or 16 degrees. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors STV Weather.
Well, you know what? I'm just glad, John, that our colours tonight, my dress, your tie, match the sunshine today.
Yeah, but we should have known better. The rain's coming tomorrow. We just heard it. Great. Dark
Scottish
ties
weather.
Tomorrow. Good night.
Good night.